We're going to look at working with different systems of measurement. So in Canada, our official system of measurement is SI, so that's Système International, which we sometimes also call metric. But in the US, they still use imperial units, and they don't show any signs of changing that anytime soon. They like to be different than the rest of the world. But because we live so close, we often travel to the United States, or, companies will do business with a US company, and we need to be able to convert between the two systems. So here are some common relationships. So 1 inch is just over 2.5 centimeters. So if you think about how much 2.5 centimeters is, that's about an inch. There's 1 foot is about 0.3 meters, so a little less than a third of a meter. A yard is about 0.9 meters, and a mile is approximately 1.6 kilometers. So these are the conversions that we'll use. So if you're needing a conversion later on in the book, refer back to these here. So let's go to the next page and take a look at example 2. Let's just zoom in on it a bit. Okay, so we have Mary delivering a load of goods from Vancouver to Seattle, and then she's picking up another load and going to Albuquerque. So the distance from Vancouver to Seattle is 220 kilometers, and the distance from Seattle to Albuquerque is 1,456 miles. Now, the odometer in Mary's truck records the distance in kilometers. So we're going to figure out what the total difference distance she'll travel in kilometers. So the first thing, this one's in kilometers, but this one isn't. So we need to change this to kilometers. So we know that 1 mile, mi, so if you see mi, that's miles, is about 1.6 kilometers. So that's our rate, 1 mile per 1.6 kilometers. And we want to know, we've got 1,456 miles. Miles are on top, miles have to be on top. And we want to know how many kilometers that is. Okay, so cross multiply, so 1 times x is just x, is equal to 1.6 times 1,456. So x equals, put that 1.6 times 1,456 gives me 2,329.6 kilometers. Let's just make that 2,330 kilometers. We'll go around to the nearest kilometer. So what's the total distance she's going to travel? Well, that's just from Seattle to Albuquerque. From Vancouver to Seattle, that was 220. And then we have to add the 2,330, and that gives me 2,550 kilometers. So she will travel 2,550 kilometers. Okay, so that's how far she goes. Now, if her odometer read 150,987 kilometers when she left Seattle, what did it leave when she left Vancouver? Okay, so let's see what that's asking. She went from Vancouver to Seattle, and then Seattle to Albuquerque. So when she left Seattle, she's only traveled 220 kilometers. We want to know what it read when she left Vancouver. So right now, it's 154,987 kilometers. And before, so she's already driven 220 kilometers, so how much did it read before? We're going to have to subtract that 220 because she's driven it. So what was it before? So it's going to be a smaller number. So 154,987 minus 220 gives me 154,767. So that's what her odometer would have read when she left Vancouver. What will her odometer read when she reaches Albuquerque? Well, we can do it one of two ways. This is what it reads when she leaves Seattle. We could add just the distance from Seattle to Albuquerque, or we could start here and add the total distance. So let's do it both ways. So we've got Seattle to Albuquerque. So she started off in Seattle. She's there, so 154,987, and she goes another 2,330 kilometers. That's going to give me, 157,537 kilometers. Okay, so that's what it's going to read when she reaches Albuquerque. Does that make sense? 154,987. I wonder if I put something in wrong. Yeah, I did. So 154,987 plus 2,330, pardon me. Let's erase that. It's 157,317. Sorry about that. So that's from Seattle to Albuquerque. Now what if we went from Vancouver to Albuquerque? Well, in Vancouver, she's at 154,767. Now we have to add the 2,550 kilometers. So 154,767 plus 2,550. Oh, look, exactly like we expect. It gives us the same number, 157,317 kilometers. So either way, you could do this either way. They're both correct. And this is our answer.